Welcome to WTF is Web3, where we untangle the uncertainties of Web3 technologies. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information, giveaways, and ways to stay in touch. You're also going to want to make sure that you're subscribed to our podcast, our YouTube channel, and our private group so you don't miss out on exclusive content, freebies, and much more. If this episode seems like it was stripped out of a longer conversation, that's because it was. This is what we call a shallow dip, because it's basically the opposite of a deep dive, where we're going to give you a brief explanation of a concept, a term, or a topic that we just felt you would dig without having to listen to an entire episode. However, if you do want to listen to the entire episode, I invite you to check out the show notes, because that will get you to that longer episode and you can hear everything in context of the original conversation. Now that we've got that explanation out of the way, let's jump into the episode. I want to just to put in your mind, and maybe not, we'll get into it yet, but maybe in the background, while I'm also going to have you answering other questions, I want to come up with, or I'd like to hear an example of a good application for a DAO. But before we get to that, I'm going to assume, and correct me or go anywhere where you want with this, but a DAO would especially be, it's most applicable to something that is a relatively simple business or organization. I almost don't even want to call it a business. It seems like it might be more of an organization, because like you're saying, like investments and really simple decisions, where like we wouldn't want to start a DAO that has the ambition of being a restaurant chain, because there's hiring and firing and product sourcing and stocking.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe if you had data on everything, like how absorbent the napkins are and how many people are buying the Purdue chicken versus the Hillshire Farms chicken or whatever else, if you had data that could then be plugged into algorithms and programming and all that stuff to start making those automated decisions. But it seems like a lot of code for all those little decisions, whereas like what you said, something that is as close to binary, I don't want to say binary, but as close to if then this.
It takes a lot of foresight and a lot of predictability. So it makes a lot of sense in situations where you can have a predictable environment with predictable decisions. Otherwise, you're going to come up with a laundry list, like a serious enumerated list of possible decisions and solutions that won't make a lot of sense. It just makes more sense to hold off and wait for the situations to arise and have an individual or group of individuals vote at the time, which is why the voting element does exist in DAOs. You do have that ability to resolve situations where the programming has reached the end of the possible solutions, and then it goes out to the DAO token holders who get a vote. They get a say. So that does exist. But then that's not that there's some like, how does that help things? Now you just have a group of people constantly voting for things. The autonomous portion of it is also a key value proposition on why this organization makes sense. But yeah, it makes sense in my mind for organizations, clubs, situations where you have a very
fundraisers, nonprofits, and things
nonprofits
like
is a really, really interesting use for it because of the trustless element to it.
Yeah.
So, DAOs, we sort of just talked about kind of what they are.
And I'd imagine the efficiency as well. You don't need as much of a staff and board members who, in some of these charities I shouldn't do air quotes. I mean, they do hard work and they might be deserving six figures, but if you're able to simplify, raise money, distribute money, vote on where to distribute it, you don't need that those board members, you don't need that salary. And now we've cut down a lot of the cost.
Yes. So to get the 501c3 status, there's those requirements for board members. So you can't really get away with it on some of the regulational reasons. But from an efficiency standpoint, it makes tons of sense. And what's great is it allows this trustlessness element to it. With that, what you basically mean, or because it's not centralized, you don't have to trust any intermediary to act a way that is not aligned with how they said they were going to act. Nonprofits and charities, this is so important because they're giving money with this kind of layer of opacity that they're not exactly sure that it's going to get to where it's going the way that they were led to believe it would. And you're seeing this right now, especially in a very polarized political environment, that if it's even remotely somebody that's giving money that they don't believe in the same things they believe in. They're afraid maybe it's being directed a certain way, or something's happening in between. So there's this fear. And if you can use a framework like a DAO where you don't have to trust anybody, it can alleviate a lot of that fear and probably open up some really amazing opportunities to give to some really good causes that otherwise are probably being neglected because half of the world is afraid to give to them because someone else that they don't agree with is also giving.
Yeah, I know that is a big thing that I've heard more and more of. I started working with charities when I was in student council in high school, student government in high school, and I remember there was, and I don't know if this is an exact number, I've never looked it up, but I remember somebody mentioning like we're raising money for these different charities and stuff, and one girl was like, I think there was a breast cancer one that we were doing in September, and she's like, no, we should do this one. I don't want to name any charities or anything because I don't know how accurate this is, but she's like, we were planning on using or donating money to charity A, and she's like, no, we should donate to charity B because from what I've heard is they only distribute 10% of what they collect because that's like the bare minimum. And I don't know if that was accurate. Again, this was another high school student and this was 20 years ago. But from what that impression gave me was these charities to use this cause, I guess legally or something, they're required to donate some money, but it's actually a very small amount. So then you see opportunistic people, and there's a myriad of charities that over the last few years, and then with my last company especially, we were involved with a lot of charities. I was very reluctant to involve myself with a charity that, like, there was one that was for, I'm not going to say what it is, but for veterans who were wounded. And I heard that from a Marine, nope, these are the bad guys and they take a lot of money. It goes to salaries and all this other stuff. And there is, like I said before, some of these guys, they deserve their salaries. They market to bring awareness and it helps bring money in. But if there's that bare minimum of 10% has to be donated, and they design their structure so that they're consuming, they figure out a way to spend 90% every single year. That was something I was always afraid of. And I didn't want to look like the idiot who's like, oh yeah, and that's what the thing, we printed postcards and everything. We've got this logo on and we're like, look at us, we're doing good. And then someone's like, no, man, I'm a Marine. Those are not the guys. These are the guys you want to send it to. So
no good deed, my friend.
Yeah, you could try. I mean, I guess 10% is better than nothing, but postcards were already made, so we had to change it the next time. But you said that, you know, the nonprofit status 501c3 is it requires the board member, the human beings being there. So a DAO can't be used for it yet. Is that an IRS governance thing, or is that that's not the SEC, right?
No, that's not the SEC. Yeah, it's part of the tax code. That's what the 501c3 kind of falls under. So it's just part of the requirements.
So it'd be good in theory.
So you can still use a DAO
yet.
Yeah,
but you just have to pay taxes.
Well, you don't. That's the beauty of a 501c3.
So you can use a 501c. So you register and get approved as a 501c3, have board members, but have a DAO implemented?
Yes. So you can have a DAO then as a layer that falls beneath your existing required component. So you can have the 501c3, you can have, and this is not legal advice. I don't know if we preface this one. This is not legal advice, not financial advice. But the idea is that it can make a lot of sense as a component within some of these existing corporate structures, solving some of the repetitive tasks that they're required to have, or something that you really want to project an image of clarity, a trustless component, because it really will be an autonomous action done. And it can be solely owned by a company. It can be owned by multiple token holders, but it's just such a novel concept that you're using technology to solve a lot of these like internal company governance features that before you couldn't even think about. You had to trust a human being.
All right, that is going to wrap it up for this shallow dip. But if you want more information and more conversation, I invite you to check out the episode notes and our channel, because not only can you listen to the entire conversation from which this clip was stripped, but there's also going to be more episodes that do a deeper dive on this specific topic. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to make sure you don't forget to check out the information and the links in the show notes. Some of that stuff is going to get you into freebies and raffles and contests and all sorts of other promotions, but also we've got a private group dedicated to our listeners and our followers. We would love to see you there, love to see you collaborate, join, and get exclusive content that we are only distributing through these other means. Speaking of distributing through other means, I want to make sure that you're also subscribed to our podcast, our YouTube channel, and again, join that private group so you know everything that we know as soon as we know it.